I'm so glad we're back. Oh, like this is
Yeah,
crazy. How long
it
has
is.
it been? Did we even do the actual count?
September.
Oh my God. Well, good to be back
Yeah,
on the mic with you. I'm excited. I'm
I
excited to
know.
record today.
Sultry
This
Circus has returned.
my Vyvanse kicked in like right on time. So I was like running around getting ready for this and just like,
Nice.
okay, this is have you heard of morning dread?
No.
Okay, so I get like anxiety every morning when I
Mm,
wake up and like wake up with it a lot. I was looking at it up and it's like kind of a typical thing, especially with like ADHD and people who maybe take meds, things like that. But not because it's like your body missing the meds or stuff like that. It's because your cortisol spikes to wake you up. And if your body is used to like having kind of a go 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 response to that, then it can kind of like stay spiked, and then you have all these hormones that flood in with that are just normal morning hormones to like, hunter gatherer, like you
yeah.
got to you got to wake up, you got to like make
Go.
sure the fire's tended, you got to like get something to eat, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's been a fun thing, but it seems like when I take the Vyvanse, like that goes away. It's like really cool because it makes
Nice.
my anxiety less, but gives me
Good.
energy to do things. So
Hell yeah.
this is a win
We
on the
need all the
on
help
the
we can get.
on the medication journey. This is
Yeah.
a good thing.
Well, that's good to know. Well, not that I can do Vyvanse right now because insurance and I don't have any of that. So whatever. But I know exactly what I didn't know it had a word morning dread because I thought it was from me because I get that too. Not as often now that I've been fired for quite a long time and haven't had a job. But I used to like
Well,
get
me
like
either.
and like every morning I would
Yeah.
still get so anxious because like I was like, I have to get up and go to work and like this, and so I still get that sometimes, but it is definitely much less. And it may be less because I am now in a I was gonna say much less stressful situation, which I am, but there's like also different stresses. So I don't always wake up with the anxiety, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It's good to know there's a solution for that for people who can
Yeah.
do the Vyvanse.
Well, and I've learned too, it has a lot to do with what I eat the night before and when I eat the night
Mm,
before, because like we've been talking about privately, like the gut brain and its connection to the nervous system is like just been so under, you know, studied and everything and talked about for as long as forever.
yeah.
But it is just as, crucial to what you're doing, what you're feeling, everything as any of your other brains. And I find that if I have a lot of like refined sugar, like sugar or even like carbs,
Yeah.
like the starchy carbs, whatever, anytime after like 7 p.m. Like
Mm.
if I, eat around 5:36 and then I continue snacking to like if it's 9:30, I'm watching Love Island, whatever. Maybe I smoke a little bit of herbs and
Maybe a little.
yeah, and get a little hungry and yeah, and then the next morning when I wake up, my gut brain is like, "Oh, we have anxiety because like not only do we have to like wake up and start this day, but we have to evacuate everything out of your body in like 2 seconds. So you need to wake up enough that you can get
Go.
out to that trench." No, just kidding. Outside of the cave. No, just kidding. But yeah, no, I gotta get to the bathroom and do that. And, that might have something to do with the stimulants and the whatever that,
Yeah.
as well. So it could all be related. But if people
Yeah.
are having, yeah, a hard time with that's another thing to look at. And how much like protein are you getting and making sure you're getting kind of good sources of protein and like fats, and then not eating too late.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of podcasts on women's health. So I I have a lot of really weird little stuff to regurgitate to these things. But yeah.
We love the rabbit holes. We got to share all the knowledge because we can't all know everything. So that's why we each have specialized things we're hyper focused on and go rabbit holing on.
Oh, exactly. I've been, yeah, between like the Know Thyself podcast and Mayim Bialik's Breakdown, where they have a lot more of like the neuroscience and whatever. And then I listen to like Giggly Squad, which is a totally different thing, but they all say some random
They're
stuff too
fun.
on yeah, they're so fun. I
They
love
really
Giggler
are.
Cage. I'm a true giggler and yeah, very proud to be a giggler. But
I'm
they
a
just
new giggler.
they yeah, I love that. But they, like, spit some fact nuggets out there too and, to do with health and, of course, like, very women-focused
Uh-huh.
podcast, right? So very women's health, but,
Yeah.
yeah, so between all that, I have no idea where my information's actually coming from because my brain doesn't retain
No.
that knowledge where I can be like, "Oh, go check out this person's work or go listen to that." No, just go through the podcasts,
Get
look
your
for
bits and nuggets.
keywords. That's how you find it. I am a horrible resource.
Yeah.
I keep trying to get
I
better.
feel the same. I don't know where it comes from. It just comes in and I'm like, I don't remember where I got this, but like here's what I remember. Who knows what the source was? I kind of feel like it's just like that with memes and stuff. We just like we put information out there and at this point crowdsourcing the original source is like okay. But we all need to know this anyway, so who cares where it came from because we're going to share it and we're going to learn and grow together.
No, exactly. And I mean, like that's obviously, like people who've done like research knowledge and things like that. I was just talking to a friend yesterday about how that used to like stuff like that used to come through in channeling. And I used to get like at the beginning of my awakening so like miffed that like I would have this, and I'd write it
Yeah.
and take all these notes and then like not really know how to share it or I shared it but I had like no following. And then I'd hear somebody with like a bigger platform say the same thing and I was like, "Come
No.
on." Like
Come
and then,
on.
but thank goodness for the general evolution into understanding like the collective mind and how we all we contribute to that and being able to like feel into that and know at some intrinsic level like yes I am still contributing. I that was still partially me making
Mhm.
that happen and bringing that out to the collective. Just I wasn't meant to be the voice this
Right.
time.
Exactly.
But man, I used to get so like
It's
angsty.
salty.
I used to get it. Yeah, I got salty.
Nice. Anyway, gosh, I cannot believe we are back because there has been so much happening. And wow, I don't know. I think okay, I know our last episode was like the Don't Look Back episode, and we recorded that right before uh I lost last like there's been just massive upheaval since all this stuff and to check in with
Yeah. Okay.
everybody and
I'll
how
take
is
your
everyone else
words.
doing?
I'll totally take your words for that because I completely forget where we left off. But that being said, do you want to try and give people like a little Cole's notes, like of
Yeah,
kind of what's happened since September
bullet
for you?
points, like
Yeah. Yeah.
some shit. So our
Just
last, yeah, it was a Don't Look
riding the
Back
waves.
episode. Yeah, and we were talking about how like we're not looking back on the storylines of like you lose the good thing, like you get to keep the good thing in this lifetime, and all the things, which is absolutely true. But literally, like 2 weeks after we recorded that, at the end of September, I learned that I had lost my home. Literally, like my dream, like everything would just like rug pulled out from under. me. And so I have moved twice since September. I moved back into the pirate ship for a few months and I had a whole long saga of like, I was fine for a while. And then my pellet stove broke, which is the only heat source. And I was kind of carpet bagging in between friends' houses and sitting here and had somebody was watching my cats. And like, I mean, it was just, I talk about like, it was just low level / high level stress that I was just living with for months. Like it just kept like, and like losing the heat. And I was just like in this whole big fear, scarcity, whatever. And I knew what it was. I knew they were fear portals. I knew that like all this stuff was like lessons for the greater good and like yes something got taken away but like something greater was going to be put in its place and I do have that something greater now, so I knew it was coming. But moving through all these things you're just like okay, I can't there I am at, I kept saying for the past 2 years I'm like I'm at my max, I'm at the end of my rope, whatever, and then the rope just kept getting longer and I had to keep going. I was just like when is that gonna stop? And so so anyway, after the no heat day or
Well,
whatever,
just for
Oh,
like quick, like I think so many people can resonate with that. And that's even a message that came up like just the other day when I was doing kind of like a collective energy reading. And it's just that like trust the timing, even when the timing feels like it's at the last possible second. It's still not the last possible second because it's
yeah.
always was supposed to be that time. So
Mhm.
we're kind of getting ourselves like exposure therapy, getting ourselves used to like feeling like we're waiting for the last possible moment and then some. And then the thing comes in and it kind of it proves that, it builds that trust, it builds that faith. It's hella uncomfortable. It's not like, I feel like it's not what any of us, like our human selves, would ever choose to like want to do to like decondition to learn how to work with and move into the new energy. But it
Yeah.
really goes along with that same theme we've been talking about for a while of like expect the unexpected, and like you have no idea what's going to come, you couldn't imagine, so just trust the process, blah blah blah, all those same old themes. But it really keeps coming up that it's like trust the timing. And yeah, it might seem like it's time has completely run out,
Yeah.
but it's
There's
gonna
more.
happen. And it's just always was supposed to be that way. It's like some of
Yeah.
these things push, and I'll shut up and let you keep
No,
going. I don't want to take you
this
off
is
track
good.
too far, but it's like I'm finding too in my own life that like this, timing running out, resources running out, like being at the end of your rope and then some. It pushes you to do different things. It pushes you to think differently. It pushes you to use your imagination. It pushes you to think outside the box. It makes you maybe go into avenues or try things that you would not have tried if you weren't feeling that, false sense of urgency. So this energy, as uncomfortable as it is, when we get squeezed, like yeah, we hate that, but we figure out a way out, we squirm our way out, we figure out how to be in it or whatever it is. Like we're so adaptive that these energies that have the most pressure is when we do the most adaptation, and we actually
Yeah.
figure out like we're capable of these things that we never would have thought we were. Anyways,
Exactly. That's and I keep talking about this on my because I kept streaming for a while and did some other so I've been talking about how it's like you go to the gym to get stronger and you tear your muscle like you do a lot of crazy sounding things to get
yeah,
stronger and that is what we're doing but like psychically and spiritually and discernment wise like all everything that has been happening is just like you come to earth school to become masters of limitation in a lot of ways. I don't know that it will always be this way because again, like as we talked about in our last episode, it's like we're closing out those old karmic cycles and we're kind of moving into new stories and it's kind of like whatever you want to write your life to be like live your own myth kind of thing. We get to do that now. And so we're kind of moving we're titrating off of the old timeline and moving to the new one, so there's kind of a lot of shit going on and I keep thinking that astrology is going to change because I know it's going to, but
yeah,
like, so I get annoyed when I'm still experiencing the astrology the old way because I'm like,
yeah.
I'm out of that story now. What the fuck? Why is it still affecting me? Whatever. It's okay. It's just titrating on, like whatever, and we're still kind of like cleansing the last of the. It's funny because I kept hearing astrologers talk about how 2026 is going to be like looking back on a locked door. And
Mhm.
I feel that very much. I was thinking about that the
Yeah,
other day where I was just like, wow, I keep trying to go back to my old self or my old ways of thinking or this or that or whatever. And I'm like, I can't do it as much as I want to go back, because sometimes when I get stressed out in this new situation that I'm finding myself in, I'm like, maybe I should just I don't know, do
right.
the old thing.
Yeah,
I literally cannot because I can feel my body being like, "We're not
just
turning that way anymore.
contracts it. Yeah,
No
you
looking
get
back." You can't do it.
absolutely.
So it very much feels like, looking back, you can look back all you want, but all you're gonna find is a locked door. I was like, "Well, yeah."
I love the analogy that you used about the muscles, and the other one that keeps coming up for that for people is the cracking open. And this, I every time I get it, I feel like no, like I cannot crack open anymore. But it can be
I
really
know.
good. The last couple cracking opens that I've had, hey, I've had a heartbreak, but I've also had one where I literally like went into my heart and watched it like crack open and then crack open again and crack open again and become these like concentric worlds. And when you do that, just all this light pours in and fills those spaces, and it's like that kitsunugi, the golden filling of the cracks in the and that creates this bigger expanded thing, and you're able to hold more light and more love and all of that stuff. So Yes, the whole process of the ripping the muscles or the cracking open, super uncomfortable, but also we're gaining so much from it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's it just feels like I am the strongest person alive at this point. Like all of us who've been just sitting
Yeah.
here and our stuff, it's just like, whoo, and it just keeps coming and coming. And then, like, it does get easier and easier because, like, no, less. I just was like, I'm so sick of the same stories. I've been in the same fear portals, and I'm like, I've done all the work, and like, because we've been talking about this offline too, where it's just like we kind of feel like we keep churning through the stuff, and it's like, well, there's nothing else that we need to work on. So why are we still in these same things? And so I think at this point, and as we talked about too, it's just kind of like I think the collective is sort of kind of doing its thing, like the different waves of the collective are doing its thing. And so all we really need to do, like if you know you've done the work, you can just sit here and anything that pops up for you to like fear portal wise, it's just like they're mosquitoes, just whatever. It fucking don't just bat them away, ride through it. It's totally fine. I know sometimes it's easier said than done because I have been leaving voice notes for Shay over and over and over, like, I can't fucking take it anymore. Just like, why is it still here? Why
Yeah.
is it so hard? It shouldn't be this hard, like all that kind of stuff.
We've been talking about how like the people you're talking about, the us's and whatever, people who've been doing the work and just feel like, oh my God, I'm so done with this. Like it's really not, you don't have to keep fixing, you don't have to keep healing.
Okay.
It gets to a point where that is happening all around you. That is, you are the lesson. You are, the teacher, the master. And when you have this kind of emotional mastery that you've gained, you don't have to keep diving in specifically on every issue because you've built these layers of awareness where you're no longer having to say like, oh, I feel this way, why do I feel this way, or I feel this way, I know why I feel this way, where could that come from. You've built in those layers of awareness. You know where those things are coming from, you know where your triggers are, you know where your woundings are, you've identified all that. So you might learn more about it still, but you're going to learn as it just plays out in the world around you in the easiest and the most flowing way.
Yeah.
Does that mean that it won't be emotional, difficult at times, that you won't get sad or mad or angry or have these emotions? Of course not. We never get rid of those. But it doesn't require that, having to dive in, do the shadow work, be so on that healing journey, consciously the whole time. It's happening
Yeah.
subconsciously all around you.
Yeah, I just get so used to being like, okay, what can I fix about myself? Where can I shift my perspective? Whatever. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, there are still nuances to that where I do need to shift my perspective or kind of come back into gratitude if I'm kind of like focusing on all the negative. Like, there are some continuous things like that. But I love how you said maybe you are the lesson. Like that's what I keep showing up here with this. It's just like I know that I am the mirror, the reflection, that I am the lesson for other people that I come across or whatever. And so I just need to keep sitting with my knowing that I have done what I need to do. And it's kind of disappointing in one way because it's like, oh, there is nothing for me to fix. So like, what do I about myself? So like, it's on other people at that point. And so that's why it's sort of disappointing because you're like, you don't have control over it. You're just like, oh, well, oh shit, if I can't fix something in me or shift my perspective or whatever, it's like, well, it's on the other person. So then you have to really think like, what are we doing?
We,
Like, do I want to still be with this person? Like, what
yeah, we've
are the
been dealing
roles?
we've
Yeah,
we've been dealing
I
with
know
that
you.
a lot with the masculine, right? And the masculine
Lots
presences in
with the
our life.
masculine. Yeah. Lately, it has been a lot of divine masculine initiations and all kinds of things. And so, if you are finding yourself, and again, this is the masculine energy, it doesn't have to be male or female bodies, whatever, but like it has been typically the masculine bodies in our lives. At this point. So, which,
Gotta call it like you see it.
and that's okay. Like, sometimes like I kind of, I'm okay with a lot of this stuff because like I know that I went through what I had to go through so that I could be there to help initiate the divine masculine.
Mhm.
And so like I feel even more powerful a lot of times because I'm like, look at all the stuff that I've done for myself. Look at all the the emotional mastery I have. And like, yeah, I still go into the lows. I am up and down like a million times all day because like that's just how I feel everything. I'm tuned into all the things. And it's just myself, like all. So it's not that I'm like perfectly, but like my
Perfect.
regulation tactics and toolbox, and it's just kind of like automatic at this point. Like I know how to breathe. I know how to like turn this perception off so that I don't get overwhelmed. Like whatever. Or
And
if
to
I do get
communicate.
overwhelmed, I just yeah, exactly. I just got to breathe through it. So I feel very powerful a lot of times, but sometimes when I know how many times I have been the lesson or that I am the mirror or whatever, and I'm just like, I got to call out the bullshit, and I'm not going to put myself aside to make you comfortable, but like I'm gonna, I've been learning a lot of that stuff, and it's been getting easier and easier, and so like it's like throat chakra upgrades. I was just writing about it in my diary the other day. I think I felt another one on Friday of this week. It was just like, oh, by the way, it's the 25th of May, in case anybody cares what day it is. I like to announce the date in case, but anyway, yeah. So on Friday, it was a couple days ago on Friday when I had a real weirdly dry throat and I was like coughing and this, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
so more so, but because it's not like a sore throat or like any of the major throat chakra upgrades, it's kind of like, it's not going to be as hard for me to say the things that I need to say because it's just like a little cough and it's like, okay, and then you can say, and I've been feeling that where I've been able to stand my ground and be firm and call out bullshit, but with a lot of compassion and like understanding and like knowing how to frame it so that I'm like, these are neutral statements that I am saying. I'm not judging anyone, but like here is the wisdom. And people
Yeah.
still flinch. Like people like if I'm talking and someone and it's just they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, I this is why a lot of times I don't like to talk because people don't all I have is the truth, and people don't wanna hear the truth all the time because it hurts a lot if you're just like, "Oh, it's something about yourself that you don't wanna hear," and I have been there, man. Like, when people point out my things that I
Yeah.
my own shadows and stuff, it's just like, fuck, and I really just wanna get into self-victimization mode, and you catch yourself doing all of that stuff. So just it's a whole big process. But I do feel a lot more as much as I'm like grr about this energy of like kind of churning, like the fire horse year doesn't feel like it's really started, even though it really kind of has, because I really need to just look at the all the stuff that I've been through and all, and so it really is fiery energy, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it also feels like we're stuck in between these like transitions or in
Very in
between these
between.
timelines. And
Mhm.
anyway, it's like a mixed bag of stuff right now. So if you guys are feeling all the things, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And we're gonna move through like we're really close to like I feel like the energy is just pushing through right now, like maybe July, where we're just gonna really start to feel some oh, here it goes kind of stuff. But I've been kind of feeling it anyway as we've been moving through this fire horse year. Like every so often there will be a thing in the news and I'll be like, oh, that's a crumble. There we go. There everyone's
Yeah.
waking up from this. So I do feel that momentum, but man, this getting we're trying to stabilize the timelines and we're trying to make it so that it's as least as less like the least amount of disasters and like pain and suffering. I mean, there's still going to be pain, but we're trying to make it so that it's as smooth as possible, even though it's still going to be a bumpy landing. So we're doing a lot of good work in the energy fields, even though your human self might feel like what the entire f is going on. So, I don't know.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to kind of backtrack just for a second and speak to that point of like kind of coming for the men a little bit here, right? It's not that that's what's happening either, and when we talk about it like that, like, it is a real collective thing that is happening, that the patriarchal structures and systems are crumbling and dissolving, and if you
Yeah.
think of how that affects you so deeply as a feminine, and how, so much of, like, doing things for the male gaze and what we were supposed to look like and what we were supposed to act like and what jobs were okay and we're shamed for this and whatever that, like those are all conditionings within us that we have been dismantling for the past like 50 years. We've been, okay, now we get to vote. Okay, now we have, all these right, whatever.
Yeah.
And right now for the men, those patriarchal structures are hitting and dissolving within them all at once. And so they are having this dissolution of the ego that is the only thing that they were really built on and raised on. And obviously, in some men, it's more or less than others with that balance, given, their parenting, how they were raised, what all of the conditioning, right? But it's in. It's in everybody. So we're all feeling it. And the men, unfortunately, like they're kind of just having to face this crumbling
Yeah.
of themselves, because that's, the masculine is so much more based in that ego and that go and that productivity and that fix. And as we move into a society that's saying, no, we don't want that anymore. We want to do things easy. We want to do things soft. We want to do things flowing. We want to bring in the feminine. We want to balance, like you're saying. Like that's crumbling everything that they're built on and that they know and that their minds know how to work and their identity. So the masculine is going through a collective identity crisis, just like that, just bang, falling to the floor,
Yeah.
literally. But like they're going through this identity crisis, and so as the feminines, if you have a masculine around that you're working with, like it is going to seem like it gets worse before it gets better, or like they're fighting it, or they're fighting you so much more, or there's so much more debate, or it's like they're not listening or they're not hearing you. And it's because they're going through so much transformation internally that they can't understand, that they probably haven't done a lot of the work to understand their emotional regulation and maturity is not at the level. Most of them, of course, not all men, but like most of them are not at the level that the feminine is at in their life. And
Yeah.
so we are holding a lot of the emotional baggage. We are holding, or the, weight, I should say, not necessarily baggage, but we're holding
Hmm.
a lot of the emotional weight for the relationship. We're holding all this wisdom, all this knowledge, all these truth points that, yes, they hurt and they cut deep, but they are true and they need to be revealed, and the truth will not be hidden, and that we've known that for a while. So we're holding all this, and meanwhile, we're watching them almost like get worse in front of our eyes to get better, because
Yeah.
they have to do that cracking open. They have to tear those muscles to rebuild. They have to literally let go of all the structures and the systems and the identities that they have picked up for their entire life. And if you're an older masculine, that's a lot more, because it's
Yep.
that's much more deeply ingrained. It's like teaching an old dog new tricks kind of thing, right? And so if you're seeing this in your life and with your husband or your partner, or your friends or whatever it is, know that you're there by choice always. You're doing an amazing job, and you're doing such an important job to be able to, be there with them, hold that emotional weight, offer that truth, offer that other perspective, because that gives them those glimmers of hope and the glimmers of vision and the glimmers of what they're moving into, from a loving place and a compassionate place, and from someone who understands them probably more than they understand themselves right
Yeah.
now. But do understand that, for a lot of them, this is not, although this is all happening very quickly, this is not like an instantaneous awakening or wake up or an aha moment for a lot of them. For a lot of them, it's kind of this prolonged period of like, oh, like, am I ever gonna get through to them? Are they ever gonna be able to hear me?
Oh boy.
And then kind of
Yep.
these yeah, and then kind of these slow and steady moments of perspective shift that is going to, all of a sudden, they, understand a little bit of this, and they don't have to get to the level that you are at spiritually. They don't have to get to the level that you are at even emotionally, but they will be cracking open, gaining that capacity and that perspective where they're able to show up differently and continue along with you in this path, hopefully into kind of the new world that we're trying to
Yeah.
bring in together. Because again, with that balance you're talking about, we need both. It's not gonna be all women. Yes, we run the world and we do whatever, but it's not meant to be that. It's meant to be doing it together, jointly, balanced. We just have to collapse this false ego structure
Yeah.
before we can move into this together in a balanced
Mhm.
way.
That's perfectly said. God, that's so beautiful. Because yeah, I think this spiritual awakening is going to be led by the feminine, because the feminine has been shoved into the underworld for so long that
Yeah.
we need to have our voices heard and respected and like sought after and like, so it's going to be led by the feminine for a while because that will bring it back into balance.
Mhm.
And then it's balance. But like
Right.
when who we we've just been I remember I think I was living in Montana, so this was like 2022 or something like that. I had this vision of kind of this I was meditating, I think specifically on the divine feminine, and I saw this like huge, massive, red, fiery canyon landscape. Like this was the rage
Mhm.
that was kind of being it was like a crack in the earth that had like opened, and it was just like massive, and there were dragons, and just like
Cool.
it was very intense atmosphere, but like I wasn't scared of it or anything. It was just more like this is the burning that is coming up to be one acknowledged and felt and released, and then healed. It can be cooled and just like we do. It's like a volcano. It needs to go off, and then it forms new land. And new life
Mhm.
can form, like all the things that are good about this, but it's felt very explosive this past few months in particular. Like a lot of times I'll feel like the volcano energy. There's a lot of volcanic activity, especially in Hawaii right now. And like
Mhm.
there's a deep, deep underwater. I can't remember where this is, the Bismarck Sea, I think somewhere. There's literally a new landmass being birthed with this underwater volcano that's just like
Wow.
spewing stuff. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit, it's out far enough that I don't think it's affecting like human life right now. But like, if this is new land for me, I keep thinking about how, um, my brain just goes all over the place. There's so many thoughts everywhere, but like I keep thinking about how, as we go through these earth changes these coming years, we're like land is going to sink beneath the ocean, but also new land is going to be rising. And it's kind of like the rising of Lemuria and like some of the lost land masses or whatever that sunk at the fall of Atlantis. Like all these things are kind of coming back around, and they'll probably be morphed. I don't know if it's going to look the exact same as it did back in the day or whatever, but like new things are being birthed all the time. And so anyway, kind of tying all of that stuff together with like the divine feminine and like new life and all that, like we're going to be leading this stuff, but also the main goal, the ultimate goal is to be balanced. Like you
Yeah.
said, we need the masculine and feminine. And I can feel that in my own partnership right now. It's like the balance of both, it just feels so good and whole and nice, but also I can feel how much I am leading this thing. And
Yeah.
I want to move more into like owning that in a way that's like confident and
Mhm.
like, yes, I'm doing this, and I'm doing it the right way because I have so much self-doubt, and like I
The
don't
right
trust
way.
myself, like all the yeah, exactly. And so I know I'm feeling into like my own power and like doing it well, and I do make mistakes, and I whatever. It's not like I'm perfect, but like I do feel I'm finally feeling like more solid in my body, and like trusting all the things that I am doing and saying. And even if it sounds insane, whatever, it's like
Yeah.
I'm just that person who's out there, and I'm
Right.
unusual, and I will never be like anyone else or like the crowd or any of that stuff. And so I think part of this whole journey has been like being able to see myself so that I'm able to be seen by other people, take off the invisibility cloak, which I thought I was ready for a few years ago, but it turns out I needed some practice. So glad I got that. But anyway, it's moving in a really good direction, but like that fieriness of the volcano and the divine feminine rage and like everything that needs to kind of come up, we're feeling it. And that is bringing about the collapse of, like you said, the patriarchal structures and the false ego and all the things. But yeah, I've talked a long time, so I don't know if I even said anything worth it.
You said no, you're
I don't know
saying
where I'm
well,
going.
no. We're riffing. It is great. And I as you were saying that too, like, yeah, like I've seen you come into this whole different version of yourself over the last little while. And it's really so interesting how relationships, like you lived alone for so long. And so there's only so much, your own kind of mirror, your own self, so much diving in you can do, so much you can see for yourself before this, the relationship, which is just this beautiful mirror gets to show you. And I
Mhm.
think that it's really great that you and your partner are, kind of opposites, as he would say,
Yep.
like quite opposite, because I think that's just a really clear mirror. It shows you the contrast so you can see yourself so
Mhm.
clearly. And, and you continue to kind of come alive into these different versions of yourself, which isn't always like there's that crying as the infant is born, right? There's this like, this isn't comfortable. I don't like this. I don't know how to do this. This is new. But, then you learn a little bit more and you get to know, okay, is this something I want to do long term? Is this something that's actually just going to feed into something else that I'm doing? And it's just this beautiful process of kind of like birthing yourself to yourself, which has been really beautiful to watch.
Oh,
And
thanks.
you're so welcome. And on my own side, I feel like the coming out of the invisibility cloak has been, like I thought I was doing that more
I know, me too.
authentically than I was. And I think kind of my last little hurdle that I'm kind of, I'm still kind of working on now, but I started putting up videos on TikTok without a filter on. And I didn't realize like how much I was kind of hiding behind that and like
Oh,
behind this kind of like, oh yeah, like the perfectionism was still there. Like I
yeah.
didn't want to show up imperfectly. I didn't want to show up where someone would be, instead of hearing what I'm saying, looking at this like pimple on my face or my uneven skin tone or, oh, there's lines starting because she's aging. And I think with all of this e-files stuff, file stuff, I don't know how much you can say without getting
I know, right?
completely censored
You
these
get
days.
banned.
I will be fine. But
Yes.
with all of that coming out and just making it so clear like how much we were centered around, like society was just centered around the male gaze and what they wanted and who was actually forming those thoughts for the collective,
Mhm.
who was forming those standards, these horrible, just detestable, disgusting people who want children. And so we have these filters that are like, oh, your skin is perfect and whatever, just like a 16-year-old or a
Young lady. Yeah,
14-year-old or
young
a, you
girl.
know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like you haven't aged at all. And I think that just clicked something in me because I've just had such insecurity. That's just been my thing for since
Yeah.
like middle school when I, wasn't developing as fast as the other girls. I got my period later than all of my friends. I didn't have a butt and I didn't get hips and I was just this athletic build, straight up and down, broad shoulders, like solid, like don't mess with me kind of girl playing all these sports. But I wasn't like, you know, I didn't have that hourglass figure and shape ever. And then I had, I got these big cheeks and, so people call me chipmunk cheeks or
Oh my
whatever it
god,
is. And
what the come
it's
on.
just like it's like everyone has their kind of like
Yeah.
bullying stories where they're just like kids just say things and like they're not trying to be cruel at the time, but they just say things and they think they're funny and they're making their friends laugh. But like to us, we internalize that so much
Yeah.
at that age. And yeah, like I just remember being in change rooms and like crying with my mom and just like nothing fitting the way I wanted. And like, you're in like the section where all the teens are, all the stuff that you want as a teen and it's just like not fitting the way that it fits these
Yeah,
other
I know
people.
that feeling.
So I would cry then. I'd get this anxiety before going to school. Like I couldn't find something I would wear that I would feel okay in. I'd be insecure and just, whatever, closed in, making myself small all the time, all day. Like if I had a bad hair day or a bad whatever day, like ruined my whole day. And so I just had so much insecurity for so long surrounding these, society conditions and standards that like came from this horrible place.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just like taking this big breath of fresh air finally at like just being who I am and embracing the fact that I'm aging and that's good because I'm gaining wisdom. And if people see lines on my face, they might look at that and go, oh, she's like been around the block once or twice. She knows
Mhm.
what she's talking about. This isn't some spring chicken. Like, you know what I mean? And like the positive sides of it, right? Of course, of aging, which there's so many. And I'm, more myself and happier with myself and in my body than I've ever been. But the final hurdle to that was kind of taking off that filter, letting the world see me like, when I wake up in the morning, my skin is dry. I've got I'm outside. The light is not necessarily great, but here I am, I'm showing
Yeah.
up because I have things to say and messages and I was not putting them out there, timely, and then they would kind of fade away because that's kind of how my stuff comes through. And I'm sitting in nature and it's like, here's this really awesome message, but if I don't say it then, I'm not feeling it the same way and then it doesn't feel authentic to share. So now I'm doing it, I'm sharing it in the moments that feel good because I'm not stopping myself based on how I look when I open
Well,
that
yeah.
front camera. Um,
Nice.
and,
It's a way to do it.
yeah, and, like, working on stopping doing things like Botox, and, like, I did so many fillers, like, in my mid late 20s, kind of just I got, oh my gosh, I can change my appearance. I
Mhm.
can, like, I've hated this forever. I can change all this. Like, let's go. And, money from real estate rolling in. I was like, I can do whatever I want. Like, I did way too much. I did cheek fillers. I did jaw fillers. I did some in my chin at one point. I did
Oh, you did?
both. Like, I did Botox, forehead, frown lines,
Yeah.
smile lines. I even did some here in the upper lip, which is called a lip flip, which
Mhm.
is supposed to make your smile like less gummy, like it makes your lip kind of spread out
Oh,
instead of going like skinny. I can't do it. But but
you're hilarious.
the other thing that it does when you get that, which is hilarious, is you can't like you can't, like, I can do it now. I'm just trying to show what it was like, but you can't roll your lips like that. Like, if you put on lip chap or something, or you're trying to, like, suck through a straw, like suction,
Oh,
or put your mouth around a bottle, you can't get your lip
weird.
you can't get
I
your
didn't
lip
know that.
down to do it. So I played with all these things,
Yeah.
and I learned all these things, and I'm not, upset that I did that. But when I look back, I had a period of time during that where I was looking at myself in the mirror, and when I looked back at me, like real me from high school or whatever, I was like, I don't know that person.
Mhm.
And now I'm having that again where I look back at me when I had all these fillers and these things, which are all like dissolved or like, out now. I've got
Mhm.
maybe a little bit still in my lips that's like slowly, breaking down and dissolving, because it just takes a while to do that. But now I'm like what I would have, pretty close to what I would have looked like if I just
Awesome.
never did all that stuff. Maybe the
Yeah.
wrinkles aren't quite as bad because the Botox does help with that. So they
Yeah.
don't get so deep set. So I
Yeah.
had, some help from it that way. But
Mm.
pretty much for me, I don't know what it is with my white ginger skin. Everything just comes back. So like this, it's all there now. But all of that to say, it's like, becoming a new me, but finding the me that I was meant to be all along. And that
Oh,
was one of the
wow.
like golden nuggets I had from one of the Giggly Squad episodes with Hannah. She was talking about Botox. Paige was talking about Botox, how she did it, and then she was like, "I'm never doing it again." It changed how my face moved, and it does. It changes how you
Ah.
talk too when you do stuff around the mouth and the lips and the chin and stuff.
Mhm.
Like you get a little lisp anyway. But she was talking about that, and Hannah said, if you she's just like, I just wonder, like, if you do all of that, she's like, I want wrinkles, number one, like, I'm excited to have wrinkles, but if you keep doing all that, like, how do you know who you wanted to be, like the version of
Mm.
you that you
Yeah.
wanted to be? And I swear I cried at that. Like, I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's like, this is a funny podcast, and I'm just like sitting there, like tears streaming down my face. I'm like, oh, Hannah, you cut me deep. And she got to the core of me, and I just was like, damn, like, I'm doing all of this inner work. I'm, learning to love myself on all of these levels. I'm doing some really crazy, intense, not fun work in relationships, which has
Mhm.
been a lot of my story, which is, I'm glad for the experience, but it's been freaking rough.
Yeah,
These last
you've
3 years have
had
been really rough. But I'm doing all of this to become this version of me, and that's what you want to be that version of you. And meanwhile, I'm literally physically stopping myself from becoming that version on the outside. And I just like the way that it all clicked together in that moment. I was like, okay, no more filters, no more fillers. We're doing this. I promise you, universe, I'm gonna be me.
Oh my god,
Anyway,
I
it
love
was,
it.
yeah. So
Nice.
that's my version of taking off the invisibility cloak, is like, yes, I've been out there. I've been on TikTok. I've had the following. I've done whatever. I've been seen,
Mhm.
but now I'm actually being
Being
truly seen.
seen.
And I
Mhm.
tell you, it changes how you feel about it, because like comments about, oh, you're so beautiful, you're gorgeous, whatever it is, when I had that filter on, it's like, it
I
hits,
see in
but
the
it hit like
filter though.
kind of like
Yeah.
half hits. You're like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, but would you think that if you actually saw what I really looked like
Right.
when I recorded that,
Yeah.
like in the morning, and no whatever. And now it's like, maybe I don't get quite as many of those comments, but you know what? Most of those comments were coming from like men who
Yeah.
I don't want your attention
Right?
anyway. And you're only there, you're probably not even listening to what I'm saying. You're just staring. And then you're like thinking
Yeah.
that you're creating a imaginary world in which we are dating and I owe you something and you're coming in my, DMs being like, hey, when are we meeting up? And I'm like, I don't want that attention. So
Mm-mm.
that's fine. And then the
Mhm.
ones that I do get are usually from friends, fellow women, and that means the world to me. That the way
Mhm.
that hits my heart is like, when someone says like you're glowing or something like that and there's no filter on, I'm like, damn, they actually see me. This
They
is them
see
actually, like,
me.
that's a compliment actually for
Yeah.
me, not for a filter. So
Yeah, I love that. And I think mine was becoming seen through a relationship because like in case you haven't figured it out at this point, yes, I am I talked about my partner and all the things. So I know in our first episode I talked about how I just haven't had any, I haven't been dating, I haven't had sex, I haven't done anything. And I honestly, my last relationship, I had a couple of boyfriends in college. That was like over 20 years ago. You guys. And
So
since
this is
then
a
I've
good
been like,
time to catch up on what we left you off out of
exactly.
KK's timeline since September. That
So
we are
much.
now an hour later, and it's my fault.
No.
You were going through it so good, and then I took us on a whole multiple side quest, layered side quest.
We
So
love our
yes,
side
now we're
quests.
back on track.
We're good.
This
No,
yes, here
this
we
is
go. Here's
actually
the
perfect
story.
because I love going on the side quest and kind of like, going in and out and oh, I feel like life is just a whole bunch of side quests. Like anyway, this is welcome to the ADHD podcast.
Yeah, don't let me distract you again. Back to the
No, it was
relationships.
perfect because it all ties together. That's the thing. It's
Yeah,
like if you hadn't said that, I wouldn't be thinking about how like yes, my next step was to be seen through the eyes of someone I'm living with, and like it happened very quickly. Honestly,
yeah,
even through the beginning of this year, I was still thinking it would take about a year or maybe even more to actually be living with someone or having these changes that have already happened in the past few months. And I'm like, well, so yeah, there's some fireworks energy where I was like, okay, that happened way sooner than I thought I was kind of, but I'm glad for
yeah.
it because it needed to happen the way it did and stuff, but it's just been very, very intense. And so one of the things I've been trying to do lately is because I've been feeling so down about myself and like all, what am I doing? And like looking back at the closed door, like, why do people get into relationships at all? Because this is really insane and hard and like not fun. And like,
We've
what
all
the fuck
asked
are we
ourselves
doing? And
that.
like, and so I'm like, maybe I should just go back to being single. And I can literally feel my body being like, that is not where we are anymore. You are here. You are going to be here. And you might as well get used to it because it is a locked door back there. You cannot learn anything else by being on your own. Like I knew, and I know I've talked about it on the podcast before. I'm like, I knew I reached the point in the road where I had learned everything I could. And so I was like nervous because I knew a relationship was coming, but I definitely didn't see who it was going to be. Everything has just taken me by complete surprise because, you know, when you're asking for your dream life, and I think this is part of the reason why we've lost some major things like the rug pull feeling and like all that stuff is because like when you ask for your dream life and then you put expectations on it like timing wise or how it's going to look or how's it going to feel like whatever all of that limits your manifestation abilities when you just like say okay whatever happens happens. And so that's when I lost my big dream thought or my dream house and life and the midnight diner that I was just like ready to build and like all this stuff. I lost that. And it's just like a really good lesson in manifestation where it's like you can be a master manifester if you just like it would be really cool if this thing happened and then completely forget about it. Just live your life,
Yeah.
know that it's going to come and it comes way faster and in crazier ways than you would ever think. And so yes, I am with somebody who is a lot older than me, who is almost completely opposite of me. I never would have picked this person, and he feels like we recorded our first episode because we have a project together too. But anyway, we both were
Yeah,
saying like,
wait, sorry,
if you
just
had
plug
told
that
me, oh, go ahead, what?
plug the project for
Oh,
a second. Yeah, let everybody
it's
know.
called. Thank you, Shay. It's called Tending the Soil and the Soul. We have one episode up, it's on YouTube right now, which is literally tending the soil and the soul, and he's the gardener, the no dig organic gardener. He's been doing this for like 40 whatever, basically his whole life, but like particularly here, he's been here for 40 years. And so he's doing like garden, like soil health stuff and like showing how to plant whatever. I'm kind of the videographer slash farm girl slash like more cosmically tuned into like the radio stations in the cosmos and like aliens and inner earth beings and like energies and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, we're very, you could not get two more opposite people, but we agree on the big things. We agree on like, we want to live in harmony with the earth. We want to educate people to be also living this way because we can all see that we cannot live in these weird systems that are currently collapsing. And so it's like we have to learn how to take care of ourselves and to build community and come together and like share resources and, just have a whole new way of living. It's very Lemurian kind of, just living with the
Homesteading
seasons.
and,
Yeah.
like, that's
And
the
so,
vibe. Yeah.
yeah. So we agree on those big things that kind of like morally and ethically we are on the same page. But living with someone who's totally the opposite, it's taken like my soul picked an insane path to just
Right.
like the way that I am stretching and moving into this new version of me is like it is very uncomfortable a lot of the time, but I know I can do it. And even before I actually moved in here, I had a lot of fear about it. I had a lot of doubts. I had a lot like everything was coming like all the self-sabotage things were like this is too good to be true or like no this will never work or like I what are you doing? This is insane. Like all the everything came up to just make sure that I faced every single doubt and every single fear and all the other things. And all I could ever do was lay in the pirate ship. I would just like sit there in bed going like I am absolutely terrified of all the things that are going on right now. The fear that I was living in with no heat and all the all the mold and just like a terrible situation. And then
Mhm.
but there was this other thing that I was also terrified, but I knew that it was supposed to happen. And that's one of the things that has been happening over the past few years as I've gotten in touch with myself. I've never trusted my body. I've never trusted my own intuition. I've always tried to be a logic and reason, like anxiety filled stress ball of a person. And so as I've been forced to listen to myself and to listen to my own soul and to trust my own body, I've had to trust it through some really difficult things where I'm like, there's no way I'm going to survive this. There's no way this is actually going to work out. I'm going to die. Like my nervous system would be on fire. And all of that did was to get me to trust my own self. And so when it was obvious to me, because it was pretty obvious early on as this was happening in the fall, I was like, oh, I know where this is headed. And I was like, I don't want to even think about it because it felt like too much.
Right.
And now because as I moved through it, I was just like, anytime I got scared, I was just like, I know I have signed up for this. I know that this is what's going to be happening. And therefore it is successful. I just have to relax into it so I can get out of my own way to help make it the success I know I came here to be. And so
Yeah.
that's all I've been able to do these past months. It's just like, you know, relax into how it shows up and who it's with and it's really awesome, but it also is really hard and like I don't I know that it will also get a lot easier because as we were talking about like the masculine kind of coming online and being activated and all this stuff, it's like some of it's really difficult right now, but I can see the light. I can see it as he cracks open, like all the things. And it's just, he's so supportive and he's so what, and he never, you know, he never makes me think that I'm too like I can't do a certain thing or he's just like, you're doing a great job. I know this is a crazy new thing for you, like all this.
I love
So
that.
he's very, very supportive and I'm not locked into one box, but I am becoming this insanely different person that an older version of myself would be just like, what are you doing? Like, and now I'm
Yeah.
just like, but I think it's fun. Like, what do you mean? What am I doing? I like it. So that's kind of I'm sure I know I didn't hit on everything, but it's also, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I've talked about this man who's I considered a brother for a very long time, and he's been helping me do my organic gardening when I lived at the Midnight Diner and all the things, and that has turned out to be the person I'm supposed to be romantically involved with. So
Well,
it's been a
that's
really weird, like, but that
yeah, and,
is
like, best friends first
Yeah.
works, you know? It really, really does work, and I think watching you through this journey, like, because there is a big age difference, because you guys are so different, it was just so important, like, you coming out of where you were at and him coming out of where he was at, that you had that friendship first and that
Yeah.
grew without any notion in your mind of, like, "This is gonna be my person. I'm gonna actually romantically be with this person."
Yeah.
Because we know how that changes things. It changes how much we're able to open up, how much of ourselves we're able to be, how comfortable we feel, sharing those innermost parts and all of that. And he was going through, a lot of his own awakening stuff. And it was
Yeah.
really the perfect moment to have you in his life as a friend. If that was, something where you were already romantic, that could have gotten very complicated because it's difficult going through
Yep.
awakening type stuff with a partner. It adds that whole other layer of
Which you've been through.
complexity. Which, yeah, yeah. There's just any myriad of things for me in relationships. But yeah, so I just think like that happened the way that it was meant to happen, and it couldn't have happened any other way. Like it
Uh-huh.
needed to grow, and you needed to get comfortable with the idea of even sharing your time that much with somebody else, or having someone come over and help you at your house with your stuff, and all of that, and kind of creating that cooperative, relationship, then to grow into like, okay, this might be more, and then to grow into like, okay, I'm going to actually be living with this
Yeah.
person within 24/7. That's a huge, like you
It went
said,
so
like you're a whole
fast.
different person. Like that's a huge jump to go from living alone to like with this person full time. So
Yeah.
I think it took the journey that it needed to take for both of
Oof.
you. But
Yep.
yeah.
And looking back on it, I can see, and even when I was in the middle of it and I would get frustrated with the timing or whatever, I would be like, you know what? If this wasn't happening, then I wouldn't have had the time I needed to sort of get used to this aspect of it or whatever. And so I just would relax, even though I would be frustrated because I was like, this is a much needed phase for me of like, okay, I'm mentally kind of preparing for whatever is happening, and then I can physically move into it. And so there were a lot of weird delays, but also the delays were very necessary. And so, like, yeah, as you were talking, it was just like, I remember going through this whole thing and just being like, why isn't it doing it this now faster? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, okay, well, you wouldn't have been able to handle it. Me talking to me. I'm like, I would not have been able to handle it if like it had gone any other way. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely needed to be, I have to know somebody can be my friend first, because and I don't know if that's like an Aquarius thing or what. Like I don't know, because Aquarius is just very much like, no, the romantic thing is kind of weird, and it's like I think we find it easier to be friends and build something off of that. I'm not saying it's only an Aquarius thing. I just mean like I feel very Aquarian, or I've been like leaning into this very like, because I feel so Pisces at the same time, because I Pisces rising, Pisces moon, whatever, and I'm just like the emotions, the romanticism, the imagination, like all stuff, and then like the Aquarius is very like no emotions. They're a very complicated relationship with emotions, and I've been kind of seeing how I can be both. I feel like I was struggling for a long time because I felt so at odds with myself, and now it's kind of like I could be the observer of my emotions, but also feel them and not be overwhelmed by them. Well, okay. Except for when I do get overstimulated, but whatever. Anyway,
Still
it's just been a
happens.
really interesting identity
Shift.
shift and journey and all kinds of everything. And we will be talking a whole lot more about this as we move through these podcast episodes, because like all the stuff I am learning and all the stuff you were learning, like it's just fun to talk about it with you because like you're my sestra. We will like process everything so well together. And also I just feel like as we share our stories, that's how we help other people. And that is always what I've been wanting to do, is help other people, but like have fun along the way and not be all preachy about it, but be like, listen, I'm going through a thing. If it helps you, awesome. If not, okay. Maybe listen to Shay, because Shay's got some amazing wisdom.
I love that. And on that note, how about we call this episode a wrap?
Okay.
That sounds really beautiful. And why don't we go to a part 2, which will kind of be some of my updates from September till now. I know
Yes.
I gave you a couple, but I really enjoyed just kind of letting you flow with your story. And there's so
Yeah.
much nuance and everything there that's coming in with the collective energy. So why don't we wrap this one
Okay. Sounds
and
good.
make sure that you put your new podcast in the
Put
comments,
the links in the
and yeah, the
description.
links, or at least where people can find you. you. And
Yeah.
people can find me at Shay Sevens on TikTok. That's where I typically am. Gonna try and do some YouTube stuff, but that's not around yet. So shut up, Shannon. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to part one of
Yeah.
our return of the Circus Queens.
We're
And
back, baby.
hopefully you continue right along to part two. We'll
Sounds
talk
like
to
a plan.
you soon.
Love ya.